In this edition of Vinyl Haul, I've got pretty much a split between EPs and LPs this month. Got a live album, got a reissue, and I also have a black metal album, which might surprise quite a few of you because I usually don't cover the genre. But we're going to do it today, so you know what? You should stick around. First up is the second studio album from American death metal band Gruesome. This is Twisted Prayers, released in 2018 by Relapse Records. So the first thing to mention right out the gate about this band, they are a tribute band of sorts to the band Death. You can definitely hear that on every single record. If you put this one on in particular, and you're like, wow, it sounds like Death, that is highly intentional. Not an accident by any stretch. I mean, they even got Ed Repka to do the cover art, just like Death. Fantastic. Twisted Prayers specifically has a technical and melodic style, very reminiscent of Spiritual Healing, which is Death's third album. That sweeping, melodic soloing and riffing that you're familiar with on that record is emulated on this one as well. Final variant for this one is yellow with red, blue, and purple splatter, also known as stained glass splatter. Limited to 500 copies. Also get an insert here with some credits and some lyrics. And, of course, my favorites on this one, gotta say, A Waste of Life, great track. Also, At Death's Door. And the closing track, Twisted Prayers, also pretty decent. Of the three, At Death's Door is my favorite. I would check that one out first. There is a music video for Inhumane. There is a lyrics video for A Waste of Life. Both of those are at the Relapse YouTube channel. You should check those out. The video for Inhumane is actually pretty cool. They do a parody or a play of sorts off of Escape from New York. It's actually pretty well done. You should probably check it out. So I should mention that I bought this album shortly after seeing them live in March of 2022. They played with 200 Stab Wounds and Obituary. It was an amazing show. And it's really cool when you buy an album based off the strength of a live performance, which is exactly what happened. I saw this band. I'm like, wow, these guys are really amazing. I want their vinyl. Unfortunately, I got to the merch table at the end of the show and they were all sold out of their records. I was like, ugh. So I went home and immediately bought this one on Discogs. Had to do it. And I definitely love that about live shows. It's one of the cool things. You get turned on to bands you never knew about before and buy their albums. So, very cool. So some people might be annoyed by Gruesome playing a bit too close to the Death sound. I really dig the emulation. I recognize the fact that they are a good death metal band, technical at times. And of course, let's be honest, Death isn't going to make any more music. Chuck is in the grave. He's not going to give us any new stuff to hear. So we might as well have Gruesome. I mean, they do it right, and they're pretty admitted about it. So what's the big deal? Anyways, definitely dig this album. I want to get their album before this, as well as their EPs, because this is fantastic. Next is the most recent EP from Croatian metal band Speedclaw. This is Beast in the Mist, released in 2017 by Shadow Kingdom Records. So right away, you're getting a bit of speed and trad metal going on here, though speed is literally in their name, so expect quite a bit of that. The band's very riffy, they're very guitar-oriented. You're also going to get a little bit of new wave or British heavy metal influence here. I remember hearing one track that sounded a bit like Sweet Savage, of all bands. Also some harmonic leads and other tracks that might remind you of early Iron Maiden, so there's that. So admittedly, a few of the tracks run a little bit long for me with an average of 6.5 minutes. It's speed metal, so I kind of expect a speedy length as well in this genre. Maybe that's just me, I'm not sure. They seem to spend too much time on a given riff. I think that's the problem. I don't know, maybe they're trying to pad out this EP. It is 30 minutes long, so is it an EP? Is it an LP? I don't know, but not sure. Maybe that's what's going on. Just don't know. Vinyl variant for this one is red, limited to 200 copies. There you go with that. Also, we have an insert, shot of the band, and lyrics on the reverse. As for favorites, definitely Faster Than Hell is probably my favorite song on this album. You should check that one out first. You You should also check out Evil That You See. Great track as well. There is a music video for Beast in the Mist, the title track. It's a pretty good concept video. I enjoyed it on all levels. It should also give you an idea of what they sound like. Very well done video. You should definitely check that out. It is at the Speedclaw YouTube channel. So although there's plenty to enjoy here, I do hear that there's a little bit of room for development in their overall sound. I think they'll probably do really well on a full-length album, which hopefully will be out sooner than later. Still, you should definitely check this EP out. It's a good taste of this band. Next up is the 2022 reissue of the 6th studio album from Canadian prog metal band Voivod. This is Angel Rat, originally released in 1991 by MCA and now reissued by Real Gone Music. So some of you might remember in my Record Store Day 2022 video, I initially showed this album and I said I would talk about it a bit more in the future. Well, today is that future. And for those who've never heard this album, I should bring this up. This in no way sounds like Voivod's 80s thrash metal era. That's kind of all out the window at this point. This is very prog, it's very alt-rock, it's very psych pop in moments. It's very accessible overall. And there were some Voivod fans that basically walked away from them at this point in time. Unfortunately, I was probably one of those people, but I'm getting a little older now, and I kind of wanted to revisit this album, see if my opinion has changed, so that's what we're going to do today. So now hearing this album as a 53-year-old man, I've come to realize something that underneath the commercial sheen of this album, there is a bit of an underlying darkness, maybe a melancholy of sorts that I dig that I didn't notice before. Also, this record is fairly strange, and I say that compared to other Voivod albums, which are strange in of themselves. I think this one is conspicuously so by comparison. And I dig that as well. I don't think I noticed it before. I think I was just reacting way back to, oh, it sounds like a mainstream album. I'm not going to listen to anything else about it. But there it is. And I have a newfound appreciation for it as a result of those things, very specifically. Vinyl variant for this one is purple with lime green swirl, limited to 600 copies. No other things in here. It's a pretty bare bones release. No inner sleeve, no liner notes, none of that. Kind of disappointed by that. Favorites of this one, definitely Panorama, great song, as well as Golem, New Age Fractal, and None of the Above. I could have done without Twin Dummy, as well as the title track. I feel like those tracks are a little too mellow at times, and the rest of the time they don't really measure up to the rest of the record. They're a bit of a mid-album lull for me, but not a deal breaker. I still enjoy this album quite a bit. Also, there's a music video for Clouds in My House. You can check that out at the Voivod Vivo YouTube channel. Yes, it is fun to say Voivod Vivo. Why not? I should also mention the pressing here. It's passable at best. It's okay. It's not audiophile quality by any stretch. Perhaps they could have done a better job. I don't know. But again, it's not a deal breaker. The quality of the songs here are still the same. Just got to be picky about it. On the sound quality in particular, it's okay. So yeah, Voivod was dipping their toes into mainstream sounds back in this era, and I definitely wouldn't have given it a chance 3 decades ago, but now I'm kind of getting into it. It's not a bad little record. The catchy songwriting and the melodicism in it is what really pulled me in. And what I like about it is some of the faint hints of Nothing Face, an album I really love, are here, but there's also enough that is different from that album that might be expanded upon in future releases from them. I need to dig into that part of their catalog. I haven't done so, but this kind of makes me cautiously optimistic, if you will, to do that. So yeah, why not? Next is the latest EP from American death metal band Abysmal Dawn. This is Nightmare Frontier, released in 2022 by Season of Mist. So here we get 1 new song, 1 re-recorded demo track, and 2 cover songs. The new song is A Nightmare Slain. It's a lot of fast riffing and blast beats, but also some melody and thoughtful time shifts to keep things interesting. Black in the Sky, which is the re-recorded demo track, is a bit darker than the original, but it has that melody and aggression I really like about this band. What little I've heard from them, to be honest. We're going to talk a little bit about that later. As for the cover tunes, we've got Behind Space, originally by In Flames, as well as Bewitched, originally by Candlemass. The In Flames track, I don't know. I'm not really into that band very much, but this track sounds like an Abysmal Dawn track to a grand degree. So maybe it's more about Abysmal Dawn and less about In Flames being the reason why I like this track a little bit. Of course, the better cover on this album is Bewitched. They do an amazing rendition of this song. In fact, I really had to check the liner notes to make sure that Messiah Marcolin was not doing guest vocals on this, because Abysmal Dawn vocalist Charles Elliott does an amazing, clean vocal attack on this one. It sounds like Marcolin in a lot of ways. You'll be surprised on your first listen, trust me. But it's a great cover, and you know my thing about covers. I'm not always really excited about them, but this one's pretty decent. You should check it out. Vinyl variant for this one is Classic Black, limited to 500 copies. There you go. Also a gatefold jacket here. Great artwork. You've got some lyrics, you've got some credits, and all of that. As for favorites, probably could have guessed by what I said before, A Nightmare Slain is a great track. Also the cover of Bewitched. I would recommend those two, especially A Nightmare Slain. In fact, there is a lyric video available for that track, and you can find that at the Season of Mist YouTube channel. So this is actually my first Abysmal Dawn release. Pretty excited about it. Definitely want to check out their last full-length album, Phylogenesis, in its entirety. I have heard a couple tracks from it, like what I've heard so far. But maybe you could recommend the next Abysmal Dawn album I listen to. I know they've got like 4 or 5 of them out there. Let me know in the comments. As for this EP, though, great stuff. Next up is the first EP from Danish epic doom band Altar of Oblivion. This is Salvation, released in 2012 by Cyclopean Records. So definitely doom metal here with some trad metal elements. There are also very much undeniable epic moments in this band. I think it really adds to their sound quite a bit. This is definitely a bit heavier than their first full-length album that was right before this. Production is passable. I think it gets better on the next couple records, but still quite listenable, so no real complaints there. So the guitar work on this is pretty decent, especially the solos. I would say the vocals, though, are fairly serviceable. I don't think they're going to measure up to such heavy hitters as Candlemass or Solitude Eternus, but they're still decent. They still work. Vinyl variant for this one is Classic Black, limited to 400 copies. You got the tracks here. Nice little cross there. Should it be that way? Should it be that way? You decide. Also some lyrics on a very unusual sized lyric sheet. Get them on one side, get them on the other. Why not? As for favorites, The Believers in the Mist. Great song. I also like Salvation quite a bit with its big epic chorus. Choruses, rather. Obviously, there's more than one. You get a good sense of the epic feel of this band through Salvation. So I would definitely check that out for sure. The album ends with an acoustic instrumental called As We Perish. And typically I'm kind of tired of acoustic outros in albums. Usually they're pretty superfluous. This one actually makes sense. I think it sums up what's happened on the album before it really well, and I think it makes a lot of sense here. So yeah, As We Perish. Check it out as well. Although I did enjoy their latest album, The Seven Spirits. In fact, I talked about that record on a previous episode of Vinyl Haul. This one, compared to that one, is good, but doesn't quite match that level that they're at right now. Even still, you should give it a chance. It's not bad. Next up is the latest live album from British gothic metal band Paradise Lost. This is Gothic, live at Roadburn Festival, self-released in 2022. So for those who don't know about this band very well, there is this amazing second album of theirs, came out in 1991, called Gothic. It is the album that got me into Paradise Lost, and I know a whole lot of other people as well. It's a nice step up from Lost Paradise, which was basically a death metal album. Their second album, they brought in gothic elements, as you can imagine from the title, and more or less those stayed with them going forward. This particular recording is that gothic album, but performed live in its entirety, which is really amazing, and the very reason I bought this. Speaking of which, this vinyl version was a Record Store Day UK exclusive, which means I had to chase after it in the aftermarket because I'm clearly American. Paid quite a bit for it, nothing crazy, but I had to have it. It was well worth the price. There was a digital version of this album released in 2021 through Bandcamp. Some people might be familiar with it through that. It might have come out in other sources digitally as well, but this is definitely the first time it's available on vinyl. As for the actual performance, it is fairly faithful to the studio version of the album. That may or may not be a deal breaker for you, depending on your expectations. I know some people are kind of picky about that. I do feel like the playing is really good on this, and the performance is unique enough where it's not note for note. So, if you have the Gothic album, get this one too. Vinyl variant for this one is gold and black. I believe this is the only variant. I could be wrong, let me know in the comments, but there it is, very nice. There's also a gatefold with this one with amazing artwork that you're going to see throughout. You're also going to see it on the booklet. There is an 8-page booklet in here that is really nice. Great artwork. I'll show you a little bit of it here. Got some lyrics to everything, pictures. I like the green tonality of it. It reminds me that they were once influenced by Typo Negative. That's not lost on me. More pictures, more lyrics, and some credits on the back. Do have some favorites. Of course, the opening track, Gothic. It's a classic song. It's a very strong opener, album-wise and live performance-wise. Also, Dead Emotion, another classic track from Paradise Lost. It's an early track I heard from them. Love that song. As well as Eternal. Great tracks, all three. So we've got all the hallmarks of Paradise Lost that we've come to expect. There are the melancholic leads, there's the sad harmonies, there's the heavy beats and riffs, as well as Holmes's quirky vocal style. Also a very fitting vocal style for the music that's here. Throw in some solid production and a couple tracks from Gothic that were never done live until this particular recording. This is definitely a must-have for any fan of this band, as well as classic Gothic metal in general. Glad I got this. Next up is the 7th studio album from Swedish black metal band Watain. This is The Agony and Ecstasy of Watain, released in 2022 by Nuclear Blast Records. So yes, my exposure to black metal has been extremely limited. I don't listen to it as a whole. And we'll get a little bit more into that as we go here. I do know that the people are a bit on the fence about this band. There's very divisive opinions regarding their music. But I got to tell you that polarization is exactly why I decided to check into them, because that made it interesting. So there it is. So right away, I'm digging the variety of tempos on this record. There are fast parts and mid-pace parts and slower parts as well. Definitely pleased to hear that this record isn't all one speed and that's it, which is what I've sometimes run into in the black metal genre, sometimes. Likewise, the progression and flow in this record is really decent. I have heard from past fans of this band that they are a little all over the place on past records, but that doesn't seem to be the case here, so another point for Watain. Also, the production on this album is far from the standard garbage lo-fi sound that you hear on some black metal albums. I'll just stress the some on that one. Maybe that makes this a little bit more accessible to my ears, but I really do feel that this material amply benefits from the production it got. Vinyl variant here is red with rainbow splatter, limited to 1,800 copies. A nice variant for black metal. Maybe. Also have a 4-page booklet, lyrics on all sides, a little illustration here as well. More lyrics on that side, and then you open it up, you get the rest of the lyrics, as well as the Watain trident. Nicely drawn too. Of course, we got some favorites here. The Howling, great song, love that track. Also, Black C-U-N-T, as King Diamond might have once put it. And of course, We Remain. We Remain's kind of an interesting track. It's got clean female vocals in it. It's got some mellow soloing. It's got some choral elements. I like that kind of variety. I like when bands spice things up a little bit. And it's probably a little more challenging for some black metal bands to play with that stuff, considering some other fans, some true cult fans, might not like that as much. Who knows? Maybe I'm speaking out of turn. You can let me know in the comments. I'm a little new to the genre. Kinda, sort of. Also, there's an instrumental in here called Not Son, Nor Man, Nor God. It ends side 1 of the record. Interesting, it still has some of that moody and mellow guitar soloing. There's also some sad piano and some atmospherics in the background. Clocks in at about 1.5 minutes, which is perfect, doesn't overstay its welcome. Definitely dig it. Also, if you're looking for music videos, there is one for The Howling as well as We Remain. There's also a lyric video for Saramosa. And interestingly enough, there's a live performance available for the opening track, Ecstasies in Night Infinite. You can check all of that out at the Nuclear Blast YouTube channel. So this is not only my second Watain album, this is also my second black metal album ever. And I'm kind of wondering with this band's combination of aggression and epic melodicism that I might actually get into the genre. Maybe Watain is my gateway band. I'm not really sure about that. I guess we'll find out a year from now or 2 years from now if I'm listening to the genre. You can trace it back to Watain. Interesting, I guess. Of course, feel free to recommend other albums from this band that would make sense based on the things I've said that I like about them. Definitely let me know in the comments. Love to hear your suggestions. Of course, given the current supply chain issues affecting the vinyl community these days, there are some records that I ordered a while ago that haven't shown up yet, but I wanted to discuss them briefly here, mention the fact that I am getting them and they are coming, and I will talk about them just in case you were waiting for them. The first of which is the latest album from Lucifer. This is 4. They are an international heavy doom rock band. I've been waiting for this one for a while. I'll have a huge story about that when I start talking about it in a later episode. Also coming is the latest EP from Cobra Spell. It is called Anthems of the Night. They are a Dutch hard rock band featuring Sonia Anubis on guitar. Cool stuff there. Also, the latest Schizophrenia album. It's called Recollections of the Insane. They are a Belgian death thrash band. I might have talked about them before. In fact, I know I did because I covered their Voices EP way back. Excited about this album as well. It's really the lagger of the 3. It's just taking forever to get here. But I will talk about it once it shows up. More recently, I did order the latest albums from Temple of Void, as well as Based and Blut Us Nord. I'm going to guess those are going to show up a lot sooner than the other 3 I just mentioned. Fingers crossed. But I'm really excited about those 3 as well. Really want to talk about those. And since I've already been asked about this, I'm not going to be discussing the Kirk Hammett EP anytime soon. I'm actually going to save it for my end-of-year non-metal vinyl haul for one really obvious reason. It's not really a metal record. So if you are looking forward to hearing me talk about that one, you're going to have to wait until December. And that's it for another episode of Vinyl Haul. Definitely let me know in the comments which of these albums you liked, which ones you didn't. Also, music recommendations based on these bands or bands like them. You know the drill. Give me your opinion. Drop it in the comments. Would love to hear from you. And if this is your first time here at my channel, just to let you know, my name is Matt. This is the Accusation Network, where each and every week I do metal vinyl collecting videos. I also do videos on classic and modern metal bands in general. If that sounds like it's up your alley, you should definitely give me a subscribe, give me a like for the video, and you know what? You can share these videos with some of your friends. You know, if you got friends. Maybe you do. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.